The Xbox Series S recently came under fire for not being a next-gen enough console, but now a game running in 4K natively has the internet changing their mind. And an industry analyst believes that Nintendo will not completely get rid of Super Mario 3D All-Stars after March 31st, which is leading to some very interesting possibilities. What's going on, guys? I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, hey, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. A couple days ago on the channel, we of course talked about the Xbox Series S drama that was unfolding before our eyes, with many people saying that the console was not a true next-gen console because of one game in particular, and that was Yakuza Like a Dragon. Now, if you know anything about the Yakuza series, it's never really been a graphically intense franchise, and Yakuza Like a Dragon is of course coming to the Xbox One, Xbox Series S, and the Xbox Series X. But on the Xbox Series S, we learned some interesting things about it. The game will run at sub 1080p, actually at 900p, if you want to have 60 frames per second in the game. And many felt that this was because of the fact that the Xbox Series S was just too weak to handle this game. I, of course, thought that it was more of an optimization issue, but hey, you know, the internet mob mentality, what are you going to do with it? And while yes, on paper, the Xbox Series S is technically weaker in some areas than the Xbox One X, I don't think that this one game being poorly optimized was going to be the downfall of the system or anything like that. Remember, Xbox themselves said that the Xbox Series S can run games in up to 4K, but people were already writing off the system as not being able to do it because of Yakuza Like a Dragon. Meanwhile, they didn't really do that with the PlayStation 4 or anything like that when Arc ran at sub 700p, but I digress. However, yesterday we learned that the Xbox Series S is already capable of 4K native games, as The Tourist from Shinin was announced to be running at 6K on the Xbox Series X and 4K on the Xbox Series S. Now, there was a recent interview with the CEO of Shinin, and they said the following in this interview. For us, it was the really powerful GPU, so it was really easy to up the visuals in The Tourist to perfection. Depending on the Xbox Series X or the Xbox Series S, we render at 6K or 4K resolution, and then downsample to the target resolution. So you have a very crisp yet smooth, super sampled display. It almost looks as good as a CGI movie, and that's all with no temporal reprojection, so every pixel is fresh and unique without temporal artifacts. And then when asked about the Xbox Series S in particular, they said that it wasn't a limit to us. I think the Xbox Series S is quite fine depending on what you need and want. Now, is The Tourist a graphically taxing game or anything like that? I mean, no, it's not. It originally came out on the Nintendo Switch. I picked it up when it was on sale, and honestly, I had fun with the game. It was a really solid experience. Now, on the Nintendo Switch, it ran at up to 1080p docked and up to 720p in handheld mode, and at all times, it ran at 60 frames per second. So I'm going to assume that the game will run at 60 frames per second and 4K on the Xbox Series S as well. So can we drop this narrative on the Xbox Series S already? We do know that it is a budget console. It's only $300. But the fact that this budget console is already running this game at 4K 60 frames per second should show you that it's down to the developers to optimize the games for the hardware. And really, when did we become so obsessed with P? People seem to care more about P and FPS than if a game is fun or not. You can make Virtual Highlight on the Sega Saturn run at 8K 240 frames per second, and guess what? The game would still be the worst game on the entire planet because it sucks and it isn't fun. I'm going to assume that everyone in the video game industry is now a big fan of the rentals and is friends with P and is down with P. What is this P madness? P! And finally, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I think we've talked about this game once or twice on the channel. Obviously, it was a very hot topic in the month of September, and people are still interested in this game because of all the controversy and drama that were surrounding it. The other day, we wrapped up the situation in a video about Super Mario 3D All-Stars, talking about all the drama that ensued with it, and how in the end, much like every other game that creates a lot of controversy, it ended up selling really very well, and Nintendo is probably very happy as they are diving into their piles of money. But one thing that we can't overlook is the fact that as of right now, the game will be disappearing digitally and physically on March 31st, 2021, according to Nintendo. While many people, myself included to an extent, have felt that Nintendo just wouldn't completely abandon it, no one really within the industry has said anything about it until now. Matt Piscatella, who is of course the head person for NPD sales, which tracks physical hardware and software sales in the United States, obviously knows a thing or two about the industry. And recently he did an interview talking about the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection for the Nintendo Switch and the limited availability, and said the following: I don't think these games will disappear like what would happen with the old school Disney Vault, but I think there may be additional flexibility and buying options. For example, a la carte purchases on options on the eShop. The sales of Super Mario 3D All-Stars should provide additional confidence in bringing other legacy titles to the new platforms, to say the least. But again, it is Nintendo, so I expect to be surprised. Now honestly, what he says makes perfect sense, but it's nice to hear someone than just us random YouTubers theorizing about the situation, as Matt Piscatella has been in the industry for a longer than a lot of people have been alive that are probably watching this video. Now I think that a la carte purchasing would be interesting, but I think the pricing of it would definitely be an area of concern for Nintendo fans. Could Nintendo really charge you $20 for Super Mario 64 in this collection when the game can be purchased on the Wii U eShop with arguably more features such as save states for $10? Now I think a better solution for a game like Super Mario 64 would be to, hear me out on this, just add 64 games to the Nintendo Switch Online service. We of course learned that NERD, Nintendo Europe Research and Development Team, developed a custom Wii emulator for the Wii and GameCube games in this collection, and probably did something similar with the N64. There were additional mentions of other N64 games in the source code for the N64 emulator, and hell, we had N64 games on the Wii U, so at the end of the day, you could just use the emulator you used on the Wii U to bring these games over to the Nintendo Switch. Selling Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy for $20 a pop I think is fine, and maybe they could charge $25 for those and $10 for Mario 64 to make that $60, but I can't help but feel that the N64 is going to come to the Nintendo Switch Online service at some point in time, and really this could be the door that opens to make it happen. Something like the Wii, something like the GameCube, these file sizes for these games tend to get a little bit bigger when you're talking about comparative disc-based games to cartridge-based games, but the N64 still has very reasonable cartridge sizes for most of its games, and I feel like that would be a great incentive to add it to the Nintendo Switch Online service. It's about time for Nintendo to start considering adding another system to the Nintendo Switch Online. So if they were to announce that N64 games were coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service after March 31st, 2020, I think a lot of people would be very happy with that, and then could pick up Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy in the sort of a la carte pricing. But really, this is just sort of my theory, with Matt Piscatella pretty much saying that he feels that these games will be re-released in some way, shape, or form. I think this really opens up the doors of possibilities for this situation. But let me know what you think about it in the comments section down below, and would you prefer to be able to buy these games individually, or would you rather see the N64 Super Mario 64 come to a Nintendo Switch Online service and the Wii and GameCube games respectively being available a la carte? Alright, so that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to let me know what you think of everything in the comments section down below. Xbox Series S, is it still underpowered, or now that a game is running at 4K 60 frames per second natively on the system, are we going to drop this narrative and just realize the fact that people are too obsessed with P and they need to get over P and FPS and just see if a game is actually fun? Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And Super Mario 3D All-Stars, can you see this game going a la carte where you could purchase the games individually, or do you think that Nintendo should include N64 games in the Nintendo Switch's virtual console service? Because I think everyone wants that, and I think it makes perfect sense, so it almost makes too much sense to where Nintendo wouldn't do something like that. And as always guys, thank you for checking out this video. Like I said at the start, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out other videos on the channel. Yesterday we did a very fun video on Mario Kart Live that, well, I guess people are just already over Mario Kart Live because it didn't get all that great of views, so maybe if you guys could go check that out, I would really appreciate it. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.